actually go live on all the platforms before we
give everyone a chance to catch up.
We'll probably try and find it on
the world. Richard's after the
to crash.
Google Doc.
There we go. Yep,
I got it.
We're on. Hello.
Yes.
Welcome everybody to episode. I've called this episode 0. Last week was episode -1. This one's episode 0 because I feel that as soon as we call it episode 1, we've kind of got to be official and make things work. And so this one's still episode 0 of the Behind the Geeks show, where I'm joined by the legendary Scott Riley, Richard Tubb, and Pete Matheson, and we are talking all things MSP, all the things that all of us have been in the MSP space for many years. We've all broken probably everything there is to break in the MSP space. We've all had a heck of an awesome time. We've all had a heck of a bad time as we've gone through our journey, and we all love talking about it, sharing our journey with others, sharing our journey with you, the viewers or watchers or listeners of this, and hopefully with the idea of helping you have an easier journey on your end by learning all of the lessons that we might have learned and the mistakes that we might have made along the way. And so welcome, guys. Thank you for jumping on. Richard looks like he's got his very impressed face on at the moment because he's had some technical dramas with a brand new PC.
Here so nervously. So any loyal watchers who were watching last week, we had episode -1 just to sort of, iron out all the bugs and everything. And my PC was looking a little bit long in the tooth and froze a couple of times. So I've done what any good geek does. I went and bought a new PC. It's sitting here. It doesn't like Restream, and it's crashed out 3 times already. So fingers crossed how long I'm on this session. We will see.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the... We are looking at 4 people here who run have run highly successful MSP and IT support companies. We are the epitome of technical support around the world, and none of us know how to use it. And so I think I have got some dire hopes for our clients out there from the problems that we tend to have with technology out there. But hopefully everybody knows that you're not alone. We all have technology dramas. They happen bloody everywhere. We all succumb to them. I've had a couple today. Like I have a couple every day. Richard's got a couple here. So if he freezes in one of his things like that last week, then make sure he takes screenshots and posts them on Twitter or something and tag him in on it. I got a few good ones from last week around. But anyway, Richard, did you want to run through and host the news, or did you want me to host the news on this particular one? And
tell you what, you host the news this week, Nigel, because just in case I freeze or drop out anything.
Right. All right. Well, let me have a look. The format that we're going to use this week, we're going to reduce the number of news items, but we're going to make them relevant to the MSP space and just talk a little bit about how they might relate to MSPs. And then we're going to deep dive into a topic of the week. And this topic, as our first kind of episode 0, we decided to go deep straight away into the topic of mental health and the challenges around mental health in our space. And I know that I think all of us 4 on this call have all had our challenges around mental health and running an MSP and all the craziness that goes along with it. And so we're going to deep dive into some of our challenges, our stories, our highs, our lows, our tactics and strategies for getting through them. And hopefully there's going to be some insights and wisdom shared that might help some others of you out there that may be traveling similar journeys to what we went through out there. Because as you'll hear me say often, the MSP industry is an amazing industry to be in. It's awesome and it's fun and it's exciting playing with all the latest technology and tools and helping people. But holy heck, it can also be an extremely challenging industry to be in at the same time. And it can really take its toll on all this grey matter that's in between our ears. And it's important to keep an eye on it because it's not hard to tumble down the rabbit hole of bad thoughts and a bad mental health picture in there. And so we're going to deep dive into that a little bit. But to kick off with a little bit of news in the MSP space, we've got one here from Pete, found an article this week where he's found that Microsoft, our big partner, which every MSP loves working with, is now set up a new service on their platform to host malware. By the sounds of it, but they've now figured out that there's probably more money to be made in malware than there is in Office 365, and they've decided to open a new thing. But what have you? And I'm kidding on that front, but they did get found with some malware hosting out there. And so, what did you see on that?
It's genuinely quite interesting because obviously we're all using 365, and it's pretty much what we resell as an MSP. I'll try and bring I'll find the article up, and it was hosted on the register, but. It's probably quite a bad bit of marketing, technically speaking, because basically what they're saying is there's this kind of security firm that's done an analysis, and they've defined that Microsoft itself are very, very poor at responding to takedown requests for malware. So they supposedly take an average of 29 days, 22 hours, and 44 minutes to remove malware, which isn't great. But then, equally speaking, if you were to look at Google on that list, the next slot up, they take 14 days. So half the amount of time, which is, I guess, half as, twice as good, but still 14 days. It's still a very, very long time to remove any malware. But it just seemed very, very interesting reading the article, because I think specifically they were saying Microsoft built a process that identified malware to then notify. Sorry, I should probably take the screen off.
Yeah, that's right.
They built a process that identified malware on Google's system, or identify the malware so they could notify Google to get Google to take it down quicker. But they couldn't implement that same process within their own system, within 365. So it's a bit silly, really.
Left hand and right hand. No idea what the other one's doing.
Very much so. And I know we've all seen, we all see the links come through, and there's this file hosted on your OneDrive, and click on the link and it will do all this, that. And some files are actually hosted on OneDrive, which are dodgy, but most of the time it is malicious, fake websites being, designed to look the same, but fishy details. So I just found it quite interesting that it takes, Microsoft a month to remove malware from their system. So it just probably goes to show that you should have even more protection in place to make sure you're picking up on the desktop side of things and on the email side of things as things are coming through. And you're not safe on Google, I guess, is the ultimate answer there as well. It's
exactly.
Still just as bad on Google's system.
And that just highlights the importance of the biggest thing of all is educating your clients around this stuff, is letting them know these things. And little fodder like this, all of these little news articles that have all these little interesting tidbits are amazing things to just send those snippets across to your clients and let them know what that means to them. And to let them know that, hey, like Microsoft, one of the most amazing companies in the world in terms of rolling software and everything out and having cybersecurity budgets in the tens of billions probably, or at least in the billions, still takes forever to get this stuff done. So you still need to make sure that things are multi-layered and that humans are educated on how to deal with this stuff, because it's not possible to rely on any one company to look after it for you and expect it to be done in a timely manner out there. I remember on the flips. Oh, sorry, Richard, you go.
Yeah, I was going to say, just last week, Nigel, I was having a conversation with an MSP, and they were pushing back against the idea that you should have multiple layers of security for things. So they were saying Microsoft is good enough. Microsoft does this and does that and does the other. I was like, yeah, sort of. But we were talking about home filtering and, browser plugins and all these different things and that. And I say it is an opportunity for MSPs. It's an opportunity to lower your cost of support, increase your revenue. But Scott, I'm intrigued for your opinion on this, because you are one of Microsoft's top favorite partners in the UK, Mr. Microsoft. What do you think about this?
Well, you're absolutely wrong, Richard Tubb. That's what's wrong here.
No. It's not the first time I've heard that today.
It's 9 o'clock. No, do you know what? Look, I totally agree. I think a couple of things just to put in perspective here. Nigel, you're right. They spend about, it's literally $1 billion a year in the R&D around cybersecurity and threat analytics. Now, I think it is hard work if you've set these things up properly. It's hard work to actually get malware into 365. Because, as to Richard's point, you should have a defense in-depth approach. Now, I'm actually quite comfortable, and I recommend quite frequently to be quite comfortable in the Microsoft 365 stack. But it is a stack, right? So it's desktop antivirus, it's anti-malware and anti-phishing protection in your emails, and then it's other things on top of that. But it's that stack and setting it up properly. Like when I always say to other MSPs, there's like 90 security controls within Microsoft 365. They're not all turned on by default. It's our job as MSPs to go ahead and set that up in the best practice way so that we do have these layers of security to keep people protected. I think you'd have to go out of your way to get malware into OneDrive, but that's what these guys do, right? They set up trial accounts to get the malware in there, and then they've got a free place to share it. From an MSP perspective, definitely. We need proper antivirus, we need proper anti-malware protection, proper phishing protection, and we need backup. Let's not forget the backup, guys, because stuff does go wrong and you've got to get it back afterwards. But yeah, I'm a big fan, as you know, Richard. M365 as a bundle has got a great amount of those layers in if you turn them on. So that's the bit I would say.
Yep. Agreed. We're talking about Microsoft. The other news article we got here is, and we probably should get Microsoft as a sponsor one of these days by the sounds of it, but the other one here is a
Whilst we're talking
new
about how much
Microsoft
malware's on their
Teams.
systems.
Yeah, maybe when they sponsor us, we won't talk about that. We'll only talk about the good stuff.
Microsoft is a sponsor. I'm surprised Microsoft have not closed this feed down, bearing in mind what you said a few minutes ago.
Exactly. Now, there's a news article in here about a new Microsoft Teams feature, and it's from Pete, but maybe Scott, it's mentioned here that you might have some thoughts on it as well, if you know what the feature is. So I'm probably throwing you under the bus here on this one, but who wants to go?
Pete, do you want to share, and I'll chip in?
Yeah, crack on. Yeah, sorry to drop you in this. I just found a very interesting article and thought you might know about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, like, the whole big focus with Teams from the outset really has been also about enabling frontline workers. So, for people who don't understand the terminology, frontline workers is, if I think about, the guys who maintain the railway infrastructure, and so you have the actual engineers, doing their shifts on the tracks. They're not the kind of information workers who sit at a PC all day. So the most powerful device they have is usually like a mobile or a tablet with them. And so the whole idea about Teams that they've been focusing on from the beginning is, how do we get everything simplified so that they have easy access to their shifts, to their calendars, to important updates, bearing in mind they're not sat at a laptop all day. How do we get the information they need? And, can we use that extensibility in Teams to bring in apps and other APIs to get everything connected together and really just give those frontline workers the information they need so they can get on with their day? That's the whole idea. Now, anyone who's watching this who's deployed Teams at any scale knows that it can be painful to just do the same rinse and repeat of setting up new users, making sure they're in the right teams, inviting them to the right areas. So what we've got here is a lot of automation that's coming around now in actually getting things set up and saying, hey, here's kind of a default user profile. Here's a membership of the various teams that we want you to be a part of. And it's actually just making the rollout process really slick, because when it comes to frontline workers, they can be like 10,000 of those in an organization. And just the heavy lifting of doing that one at a time is just a nightmare. Now, there are some third-party tools that have been tackling this themselves, but actually Microsoft are now saying, hey, here are some tools that we're bringing to the party, which I think is really good. It's really interesting. There is another feature that's gone live in Teams this week, or it's gone general availability. We might have all seen it when you're in Teams meetings, that they now have transcription happening in the meeting. So as you're talking, you can turn on transcription and closed captions, and it will actually start to just write down what you're saying. So again, we're just promoting that inclusivity agenda, making sure that anyone who's part of a meeting can actually have a full experience. It is still really cool. You can translate that into different languages as well.
Really?
So if you want, you can be speaking in English and it can translate it into French. And it'll appear at the bottom of the screen in French. So again, just breaking down those borders when it comes to hosting, international meetings. It's incredible. I think. Yeah, well, it would translate that straight away.
I just said very good, but Google translated. I mean, Microsoft translated it for me.
But yeah, it's awesome tech that's really starting to, I think, have some great uses, and it's not just tech for the sake of fun tech. That's really cool. We've been using it as well when we've been recording handover sessions with MSPs, when we're going through some stuff and we're like, hey, let's record this meeting, but also we've got the transcription running along down the side as well. So that way they can just search through what was said and when was it said and just click to that part of the video. So yeah, really cool stuff.
Cool. So I've got a question for you, Scott. I had my MSP out here today, John, who might actually be watching this thing live, but he was out here today and he reformatted my old Surface Book, because one of the reasons is I wanted to play around with the new version of Microsoft Teams that's inbuilt in Windows 11, which supposedly gets rid of that whole Electron junk framework that makes things really slow. But when I went and set it all up and connected to it, it's a personal version of Teams that won't connect to the corporate environment. Is that me just being dumb, or is it that right. So there you go.
Yeah.
So the whole reason
Real easy answer. I had the same thing. I was like, Windows 11, look, that's Teams right at the screen. Let's do this. And I'm logging in. It's like, insert your private account. I'm like, no, I'll use the corporate account. Oh, I don't recognize the corporate account. I'm like, you need a private account.
Yeah.
Really, Microsoft?
I logged into my private account and went, I've got 0 contacts and 0 teams, and I don't have any friends privately, so who do I talk to with this? But I'm guessing they're going to be bringing the Teams traditional client across to that new framework, which does look much nicer and faster and snappier, but they just only set up personal at the moment.
Yeah, no, you're right. And if you think like there's so much like security and compliance and shared membership that we've got inside that big fat bulky client. Um, but in the Electron version, it's so light and fast, but you can sell it. It's easier to just get it set up for like home use because they don't have to worry about all those different permissions and compliance controls that we have. Phil Forster says, what was the Teams feature you were talking about that auto translates? So we've got transcription, but then when you're presenting in Teams, you can choose to have different languages. That might still be in beta, if I'm honest, Phil. I'm not sure if that's gone general availability. General availability this week was the auto transcription in the language that you're speaking.
Well, Scott, I've actually seen this out in the wild. So when we were at CompTIA, the EMEA conference a couple of weeks ago, Alex Whittles from Purple Frog, an MSP based out in the Midlands, who does some really cool stuff, he was giving his presentation and having it translated into different languages on screen at the same time. Now, obviously, EMEA conference, most of us in the audience were English speakers, but it is a very cool feature. And it was doing it to a really high degree of accuracy and really, really fast as well. So this is a feature that just works right now.
It does. And it's been in PowerPoint for about a year now. And so if you're presenting in PowerPoint, you can absolutely do that live. And so that's why I say if you want to do that in Teams, you just present your PowerPoint presentation and let it do the translation for you. But what's been launched in Teams this week is everything getting the auto transcription as you speak, just naturally in Teams. To see that in PowerPoint, and I do wonder if you brought up Purple Frog because I feel like they're the guys that beat us in our category award, Richard. So I feel like this is.
I didn't want to mention
that. I'm out.
to change the mood a little bit here. So we had the debate a little bit earlier, or the conversation about like a pure Microsoft stack versus third-party tools. It strikes me that even if you go down the pure Microsoft stack as an MSP, there is a ton of opportunity here to generate revenue, to generate conversations with your clients, because there's so much stuff going on, isn't there, with the 365 stack? I mean, we work in the industry and we have a hard job keeping up, so our clients are gonna really struggle with this stuff. So is there an opportunity for MSPs to be doing continuous sort of training with their clients over this sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we use, like, we only do 365, so we're in it like every day, and they move the buttons all the bloody time, just to keep us on our toes, right? So for somebody who sees it every day, we go, that isn't where it was yesterday, literally. But I think there's tons of opportunity for MSPs here to get involved with their clients and really just, again, keep owning that security conversation and keep pushing them along, because there's so many times when you have that conversation with a client and they don't want to do backup because they think that Office 365 is good enough, and it's our job to say, no, we have to challenge you. It isn't good enough. You have to have a backup. There isn't one in 365. And the same when it comes down to choosing the right antivirus and the right malware protection. For me, like I say, we're all in on 365, but I do accept that there are times where it's either not the right choice, or it's just not fast enough. Maybe it slows things down with certain applications, and there are better choices out there. I did a recent review like ESET antivirus. In terms of not slowing things down, absolutely incredible. It blows most of the other things out of the water. I'm still going to do Microsoft though, because I've only got one hat. But it's horses for courses. And I think the MSP opportunity there is for them to go and have that conversation and just keep pushing the security agenda. The SMEs are so much at risk, and it just continues to evolve every day. It's not getting any easier. It's not like we can just sit down and go, hey, we've nailed security. It's a constant conversation.
I think one of the challenges
Sandy
you have
in
as
the
a
chat
MSP
is
is,
when things have changed, when she's caught up, everything has changed. Sorry, Pete, go ahead. I was agreeing with Sandy here. It's like nothing stays the same, doesn't it? Moving all the time.
Exactly. And I was just going to add to that, really. That one of the challenges certainly we had, and lots of MSPs have, is that half the challenge is just staying up to date with it yourself as an MSP, of knowing which buttons move where, which features they've added and changed, and the security features. And then it's trying to then kind of personally contact your clients and tell them about these new features and know which features are going to be good for them. I remember when Microsoft Bookings became a thing. No real like song and dance about it. It just became a button that they added in at some point, and maybe there was an email that came through at one point. But you had to kind of go and find it. And then when you actually finally got that time to sit down with the clients in their QBRs or TBRs, and then know that, oh, hey, there's this bookings feature that you could be using as well. I think the best way, I think all you can really try and do is try yourself as the MSP to stay on top of it, and then just broadcast the information out to your clients. Whether you're doing it through podcasts, through videos, through blog posts, through direct emails, just get that message out so that they can then make the decision whether it's good for them. And then when you do, of course, have those kind of personalized catch-ups, you can then make a kind of another point of, hey, did you see that information? Hey, that would be a really good feature for you. Because half the features are really bloody useful, but no one knows they're there.
Yep.
So it's just trying to stay on top of it constantly.
And don't forget that price rise is coming, right? So that 15 to 20% price hike is coming in March. And so MSPs are going to have to be helping the customer defend that spend. That price increase is there. Now, I genuinely think there's tremendous value inside those 365, business stacks. But again, it's an opportunity for MSPs to own the conversation with their clients and discuss what products are you using, what tools are you using, can we help consolidate anything? Is there anything we can do with the stack to make this, more palatable? And dare I talk about the new commerce experience for Microsoft CSPs? Because again, that's another 20% price increase on top of the 20% price increase if the customer's not prepared to commit to a 1-year minimum term for those licenses. Now, that's been pushed back till March. So it was due to go live, for early partners kind of October time. It's been pushed back, hopefully because of the sentiment of what we've all been talking about as MSPs and just saying, we really don't want this. We'd really rather stick to monthly flex. Please don't do this. Please don't make us, force 1-year minimum commitments. And I've heard the opposite, argument. I was chatting to Phil Morgan at PAX 8, and he's had the opposite where he said, look, some MSPs might really like this because it's an opportunity to tie their customers into longer contracts. And if they're thinking of an exit strategy for their business, hey, it's really good. He can now say literally, hey, Microsoft are forcing this on us. It's not me. So we're going to have to get you into at least a 1-year contract. So, there's depending on where you are in your MSP journey, it could be a positive, it could be a negative. But either way, it's a chance to go and have that conversation about the value of 365, how your customers are using it, and then how they can make the most out, especially when this price hike comes in. Is there anything else you can stop paying for, any third-party tools? Can we do some consolidation with you?
Here. There you go. There's Scott's epic rant of the night. And I couldn't agree more. Let's finish up with the news and bump over to mental health and the challenge of the deep dive topic of the night. And it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure you gents as well are the exact same, is that we've all gone through our fair share of challenges. And it was Mental Health Appreciation Day or whatever it was 2 weeks ago or something like that. And I shared an old keynote that I did up online and had so many private comments from people messaging me saying that thank you for just shining a spotlight on this stuff, because I resonated with every single thing that you said in there. Now, Richard, I know I'm going to throw the spotlight on you because you've got a wealth of resources and wisdom, and you've spoken a lot about mental health in the MSP space and the importance of keeping an eye on it, and you've shared a lot about your personal journey as well. What's your first bit of how should we start this conversation and open it up? Where should we go?
So I think the very first thing to say is you're not alone. For anybody watching this, all of us on the call today, anybody out there, you are not alone in doing this. And for many, I've been really sort of open in the past few months and years about my own challenges with clinical depression and mental health. But over the years, Nigel, you and I have known each other for a little while now. I've left bread. So going back a few years ago, it wasn't cool to talk about this stuff. Nobody wanted to be that guy.
Taboo.
It was a taboo subject. I left breadcrumbs, is the best way to say, in all of my online content, in podcasts, in videos, even in books and things, and when I was presenting on stage. So I didn't out and out come out and say, hey, I'm the guy with clinical depression. Anybody else out there? But I left breadcrumbs. And over the years, people have got in touch and said, overwhelmingly, thank you for talking about this. So it was about sort of 2 years ago that I came out, for want of a better word, and said, yeah, I struggle with mental health challenges. I struggle with it every day, and just been really open about it. And I can tell you, the IT industry, MSP business owners especially, this is a challenge. There are lots and lots and lots of us out there in this situation. So just this morning, I was chatting to a friend of mine who works in Silicon Valley, works in startup, and he was talking about burnout. He was saying we've just kept going through the pandemic and going and going and going. And then for some of us, the pandemic has sort of come to an end and then normal life has started. Oh, and everything's sped up again. So, you've got all the stresses, all of the challenges are going through the pandemic. And then the rest of the world suddenly, gets off their Zoom pub calls and gets off their playing games and taking it easy and suddenly goes into, right, let's get on with work. And all the time we as MSP owners have been fighting all the way through that. And then when we need a rest, the rest of the world sort of wakes up, if that makes sense. So number one lesson here is you are definitely not alone. And I've tried my best to pull together as many mental health resources for MSPs as we possibly can, pull them into one place. Happy to talk about as many of those as we need to.
I think there's a URL listed here, tub.co/mental health. Is that it? So TU. Can we share links on this screen somehow? How would we do that?
Yeah, let me put that into the chat, Pete. See if you can bring that
Maybe.
up. You're the only one who knows
tub.co/mental health. There you go. We're learning all this new technology as we go.
Yeah, so we've pulled together all of these different resources. I've wrote books about this and all sorts of stuff, but we've got videos, we've got mental health blogs, we've got podcasts that are business owner focused, we've got mental health tools and apps. So if you're watching this and you're a geek and you don't want to talk to a human about it, the good news is there are actually tools out there. There are AI-based tools that you can have conversations with. I know that sounds a little bit freaky, but genuinely, anything that you do to start the conversation, whether it be with a robot, with a human being, or anything in between, is going to help this situation. The worst thing that you can do, I think, is to keep it all in here and to try and work it out yourself.
God, yeah. I made that mistake for years at a time, absolute years at a time, because I had it's mental health to me was one of these things that kind of just crept up on you. I had no idea it was happening. It's a slow kind of thing. It doesn't, one day you don't wake up with it. You kind of slowly, over a period of 6-12 months of stressful times and craziness, you then get to this point where you go, holy crap, the world sucks. And that's not good. And I shared in the keynote that I was talking about before, I remember a particular time in my life where I used to be, every single night, I'd be driving home from wherever I was, and I'd be looking at all the headlights of cars coming in the other direction towards me, and I'd be secretly kind of praying to whatever it is that the cars would come across my side of the road and plow into my car and send me to hospital. Just because the thought of lying in a hospital bed with drips out of my arm and all sorts of machines hooked up to me was a far better reality for me than going back to my MSP or to my work the next day. And I didn't realize that was about, because I was so knee deep in the thick of it and I'd never spoken to anybody about it or anything, that became normal for me. And it became very normal for me. And then at one stage, I lost a friend, a very good, a brother from another mother, to mental health challenges. And it kind of gave me that wake up call of, hang on, Nigel, are you going down this same rabbit hole here? I'm not having those thoughts right now. I'm happy for someone else to crash into me and take me out, but I'm not having the thoughts of doing something myself yet. I was kind of a bit too cowardice for that. But those thoughts were in my head, and I'm starting to get worried that I'm going down this bad track. And I was just getting sick of waking up every day hating the world and just wanting to leave and just go to a deserted island because I didn't think the world needed me on it anymore. And it was horrible. And it took me some time to go through that phase of, we just lost Richard. That phase of going and seeking help. And I first went to my GP and I just said, something's wrong. I just, the whole world has just been in this horrible hell for whatever. And I feel it not only mentally, but I feel it physically. It was playing out physically in me. I had this feeling in my whole body every single day that I just couldn't explain. And I was trying to explain it to the GP, and after whatever period of time of going through it, they, same as Richard, diagnosed me with depression and gave me the pills and whatever. And that started that journey of pulling myself back out of it and having a spotlight shone on it and whatnot. So it's, to me, one of the biggest things is it's silent and slow. And that's the scary part about it, is it can kind of creep up on you and you don't realize it. And you get to this point where you're not who you used to be. And I'm a big firm believer that all of us should be living a wildly amazing, happy life and grow. Sure, we're going to have our challenges and whatnot, but our challenges are the things that should define us, not define. The challenges shouldn't be the thing that keeps us clamped on and we have it as a what's the word I'm looking for? A thing dragging us down. There should be the things that are helping us rise up in there. Scott you've shared a few things about you've had certain challenges that you've gone through yourself. Have you got anything that you want to add to the conversation about where you've been, what you've seen, where you've?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm one of these people that I'm genuinely, you'll meet me and I'm just happy and cheery and go lucky, and some days you just feel like that's just a facade that you're putting on, because when you're running your own business, it's like it's your business, right? And so you need to keep inspiring and motivating and getting everybody to just have their best day and do their best work and all that kind of stuff. And like I remember vividly, I want to say it's like 18 months, maybe 2 years ago now. Like we were doing loads of great work and we had lots of great clients, but like they just weren't paying on time. And we got to like the end of the month and we didn't have enough money for payroll. Like this, we're only a 2-year-old business, right? So you know what it's like when you do the big work for the big companies and they take 30, 60, 90. This guy like over 90 days to pay for a big invoice. And I'm like, we don't have any money in the bank for payroll. And like I've taken people on, I've taken them to take this risk. It's okay for me because, hey, I'm lucky. I don't have a mortgage, but I've taken on people who have mortgages and families and responsibilities. And now I don't have enough money to pay them. And then I'm sat in that situation where I'm like, I can't tell them. I can't tell them this. I need to go in and front to me. Hey, let's keep going, guys. Great work, and let's have an awesome day. And I'm like, I can't do that either because that's so not me. It's not me. If you've heard me and when I've done the tech tribe, I am candid and I try and be an open book as much as possible. And so I had to come in and go, guys, this is where we are. And it was just having the boldness to have that step and be really honest with people and just say, this is where we are. This could be a challenge. And like one of the guys stepped up and immediately said, hey, don't pay me this month. I don't need it. Another one was like, hey, let me get in touch with one of the people that we've done some work for. Let's go and see if we can get them to pay early. And actually by having that combined solution, the stress levels that I was at like the day before versus just sharing that with the team and being open and honest. Now, I look at me and I think that was a lucky example, but I know because I've met so many business owners and so many business leaders that is not a mindset that people can have. They have the mindset and it's impressioned upon us, right? That you must be the leader. You must have all the answers. You must have the direction. You must not fail. And I see the pressure that people put themselves under, and it is horrendous. And I've had those conversations. And the best thing I can say is, like, we all need a network. We all need someone that when the shit hits the fan, even if it's not someone in our own business, that we can go and talk to, right? When I can see Guy Pyle on the chat, and like Guy and I have only met randomly because I had an Xbox Series X for sale on LinkedIn and he was like, hey, I need an Xbox Series X. Okay. But what a relationship we've managed to form out of that. He is running an MSP. He's got so many different stresses and challenges, but like the honesty of the conversations that we have is amazing. And just from an early conversation point for him to say, hey, everyone needs someone to talk to. So if you ever need to just have someone to just have that conversation with, call me. And it's just knowing that you've got some of those people in your network. Everybody needs someone that they can do that. And there is no shame to this. There's no embarrassment to this. We can't all get it right. We can't all be perfect. And you can't put that pressure on yourself. And I know I do. I know I still do. And I have to constantly have that conversation with myself to say, like, I firmly believe I'm not the best person in my business. I hire smart people and they do the amazing stuff, right? My job is to just kind of facilitate all of that. But still the pressure seems to land on me in my own head. And I know it's not them. They're not, I'm doing this because they're like through the other side of that wall. They can hear me. But it's not them that's adding that pressure. It's me that's adding that pressure and placing those own societal expectations on top of myself, right? And I know when I see the other MSP owners, they're in that same boat. And you can just sometimes just get past the facade. When we get to those comp tier events, how's business? It's amazing. I've got 1 million orders coming through and, customers coming out of the wazoo and I've got so much to do. Really? How is it? Yeah. It's that whole thing about just break down the barriers, take down the facade, and let's just have a real conversation about how is it? How are you going? I know when Pete, you and I met up with Adam Vors and he was just sharing really openly about some of the things that he was finding challenging. And I'm not going to dig into those because that's between us, but it's, again, just having that network of knowing you've got trusted people you can talk to. And I think that's the most important thing that we can do. If you find yourself just spiraling down and not seeing any way out, you need to find a network. Just like the Tech Tribe is great. The Tech Tribe accountability groups, awesome resource for people. But there's someone that you can talk to. As Richard said, you're not in this alone. And I will shut up. Otherwise, I'll just ramble on all day.
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned a really important point there, Scott, and that's vulnerability. The just having the ability to be vulnerable in front of another fellow human is hard, especially for some of us blokes. I'm going to call us blokes out here, and I don't want to make this gender specific too much, but us blokes, sometimes we seem to think that we've got to keep the weight of the world on our shoulders, and we just don't like going and sharing that we are struggling in a particular point. That vulnerability to me is huge in any respect. Pete, I've seen you nodding along like you've been in the same situations as us, and you and I haven't actually talked too much about our journeys between each other, but I'm interested. Have you, I think I had heard you mention that you'd been through some challenging times in your MSP and some ups and lows. Have you got some story in there that you want to share with us about?
Oh, so many
craziness.
Where do you want to start?
Went through?
I think certainly for me, very early in the days when we first started the MSP, we were very, very small, and we had our first issue, and we were stressing about what to do, and I was certainly kind of taking it on my own kind of head, and I didn't have anyone to talk to. Obviously, I had my wife to talk to, but she couldn't really help. She didn't really understand kind of what was going on and the stresses and things. So I just went out with a bunch of friends. I think we went to the pub, and I just kind of unloaded and said, "Oh, this is what's happening. What do I do? What is all going wrong?" And my friends were genuinely shocked at that time. I think one of them turned around and said, "Shit, I never actually realized you literally have nowhere to go to. Like, you're the business owner. There's no one, there's no boss you can go to. There's no manager you can go and have those conversations with and say, what do I do? Because it's you. And like Scott was saying, it's very much on your head as the owner to know the control and direction and everything you're allowed to do." So that was firstly a bit of a wake up call. And then very much so, as the business owner, you are so focused on looking after your own staff, your mental health of your own staff, but you always forget to look after your own. And there was another incident where, not incident, that sounds really horrible, but there's like one moment, I think, where we're having quite a stressful time and, making sure everything's all right. And one of my guys in a meeting room was like, "Pete, are you okay?" And I was actually genuinely stunned at that point. I was like, that's the first time anybody has actually turned around and said, "Am I okay?" as the owner of the main person of the company or what have you. I didn't really know how to respond. I was like, "Yeah, fine. Yeah, it's all right." Exactly like Scott said. But it just makes you realise that, oh shit, what's going on? what am I doing here? And just the stress is constantly there. And actually, it links me on. There's this. I can't find the exact post, but there's a post on Reddit I saw. I think it was like 2 years ago or so. And it was basically about how do you, as a business owner, deal with stress? As an IT MSP business owner, deal with stress. And the comments on there that were just drugs, cocaine. Honestly, it was just a list of everyone agreeing and saying, "Yep, I do some hard A-class drugs after a good old day." And I just sat there reading it, just going, "Oh my God, it's really bad." It's really
So
bad.
I have ended up on an ER table via ambulance twice via overdosing on Class A drugs whilst I was in my MSP. I haven't shared that very much anywhere out there, but that happened to me just because of the crate. Like, I was literally just wanting to escape reality every friggin' week. Simple as that. Like, you'd get to Friday night and you just go, what the heck can I put in me to just go into a different world, into a different reality? And I pushed it too far twice and ended up going in via ambulance to ER room where they were pumping all sorts of stuff through me to bring me back down to reality. And I fully get it. When people say that they're using drugs or whatever to go and escape that reality, it is so, I get it to a deep level. I have been there and it's horrible. And my encouragement to them is there is a way to get out the other side. Like, I nowadays am high on life every single day. I wake up, sometimes I'm a little bit tired in the mornings, but I wake up as happy as Larry, and I have for years and years and years now. But it was a journey to get there. And my journey started on the hospital bed, ODing and in jail cells after doing stupid stuff out at nights just because we were just silly and crazy. And my encouragement to anybody watching it that might be thinking, "Oh crap, I'm in similar journeys," is you can change your position. Reach out and ask for help and go and as Scott and Richard both said, get some peers around you, some network around you. That to me, I felt the exact same. When you're a business owner, that saying it's lonely at the top couldn't be any more truer. And I never knew what it meant until you get to the top of running your own business. And then you, as you said, Pete, you got all these challenging things that come along, and you're the one that's out the top trying to help everybody else through it, but no one's helping you through it in there. And that's one of the reasons, like, Richard, you've headed up the new in-person tribal gatherings in all over the UK at the moment, and we've got a bunch of them up and running. And on the surface, that might just look like a bunch of people getting together to talk about tech tools and stuff like that. But underneath, the very real reasons we want to keep this is we want those real friendships to be created around MSP owners, and have them to have this regular space of peers and friends that they can call on, that not only do they discuss all this other stuff up the top, but when they do need other help that might be around mental health challenges or business challenges or whatever, they've got a support system around them. And we see it as such an important thing. I think, Richard, you've been getting even more momentum with them at the moment. Do you want to share a quick couple of bits of updates of that whole in-person kind of?
You know, the local groups, you could feel it. So we talked about this before, but here in the UK, in the Tech Tribe, we are piloting local community groups getting together. You don't have to be a tech triber. You can be an MSP, an IT consultant, a one-man band, big business, small business. You can be a vendor. Let's not pretend that vendors don't have these stresses as well. Getting together. So on the surface of it, it looks as though you're getting together to talk about, let's talk about best practice. Let's talk about how to make more money. Let's talk about the latest tools. What actually happens is when we get together, of course, we talk about those good stuff, but people just enjoy being in a room with other people who are sharing the same challenges as them. That is a huge, huge part of it, knowing that you are not alone and other people are experiencing the same challenges. I want to make what I think is a really important point here as well. And I don't think this is, although the IT industry is a male-dominated industry and blokes are really, really bad for this, I don't think this is just blokes. I think this is business owners that do this as a whole. What I would say is, if you had broken your leg, you wouldn't go out and run a marathon. Or if you did, you would be... people would step in.
David Goggins is probably the only person that would do that.
Yet, if we have got stuff going on up here where we just feel as though something's broken, something's not right, we can't carry on as it is, why do we persist in going, it'll be fine, we'll just press through this? And I think this is a business owner thing. This is something that business owners do. They just think, if I just work harder at this, it will go away. Having dealt with clinical depression, having dealt with mental health issues all of my life since a young man, let me tell you, this is something you cannot power through. You have got to reach out for help. You have got to change things. You've got to make sure that you're looking after your nutrition, your body, your mind, and surrounding yourself with the right people. So I don't know if that makes sense, but, I just wanted, this is not something we're going to power through. This is not a problem that you are going to beat over the head and defeat. This is a problem that you need to work with other people, where you have to look after yourself. You have to prioritize your mental health. So I will get off my soapbox there, but I think the tribal, the local groups, any type of peer group whatsoever is a really, really important first step to take to sort of looking after yourself.
Yeah, I think in my journey, sorry, what were you going to say, Scott?
No, I was going to say, I think it's I was just going to jump on to say, I think, Richard, you just talked about like diet and exercise. I think, just, it seems like such a hippie word, but like mindfulness is really important as well. Like my day runs from 6 a.m. when the kids wake up to right through to school drop off. And then it's like be a business owner. And then it's the kids are back again before bedtime. And then it's like 8:30, 9 o'clock before I get to sit down and decompress. So what I've taken the point of doing, and this isn't for everybody, I totally understand. But what I do is I get up at 5. And between 5 and 6 a.m., I'm not somebody's boss. I'm not somebody's dad. I'm not somebody's husband. It's my time. And it's just my time to I might listen to a podcast. I might read, or I might have an audiobook, but read. But I'll just take some time to learn something that is not about my job. It's just about taking that time and taking that space. And between 5 and 6 is my space. At 6 to 7, I do some exercise 3 times a week with a trainer. And it's just about taking that effort to make space for yourself, because otherwise what happens is you go to bed burnt out and stressed, and you wake up burnt out and stressed, and then you rush through. If you've got kids, it's the kids and the drop off, and then you rush into the office, and then it's stress in the office, and then you come home and it's family stress, and then it's bedtime because you've stayed up late catching up on all the things that you didn't do yet, and you have not made space. You haven't given yourself any margins, and we all need margin. Like, Nigel, you go and surf, right? That is your hack, right? You get out there and you just, this is about me. This is my space. This is what I love. We all need that. We all need something that and we can all say, I haven't got time to exercise. I haven't got time to find some mindfulness, but you've got plenty of time to just go and binge the latest season of Squid Game or whatever. We can all make the space if it's important to us. And I genuinely think from a mental health perspective, giving yourself some margins is a massive thing that you can do. It's a huge gift that you can give. And it's free. Oh my God, how cheesy was that? But genuinely, find yourself some space.
I think there are probably, to add to that as well, there are probably three things, like almost like three quick steps to try and avoid mental breakdowns. So certainly for me, one was just do something that makes it physically impossible for you to think about work. So for me, that was like playing ice hockey. So I'd used to go and play ice hockey at like 10 p.m. at night through to midnight. And when you've got like 20 or 30 odd guys shouting and screaming at you on the ice, you're trying not to fall over. You cannot physically think about work. You can't get to your phone. You can't see any emails. So if there's something like that, like sport or whatever it is, that just makes it impossible for you to have the mental capacity to deal with both, then that's a really good kind of distraction. At least takes you out for a couple of hours. And certainly I remember when in like the moments of stress, say like when you're on site, you're trying to do a, maybe you're trying to do a DR recovery because your customer's down, it's 4 o'clock in the morning and you're stressed because you're trying to get them up and running again. The thing that got me through was, okay, well, it's going to be 9 o'clock soon. And by 9 o'clock, I'm definitely going to be in bed, or it's going to be over, or tomorrow morning I'll be at work and it's just going to be a normal day by then. So it's just seeing into the future and going, okay, it's shit now and it's stressful now, but in a few hours' time, it'll all be over. I know that probably sounds quite a bad way of dealing with it, but that certainly got me through.
Worked for me as well. I had the exact same. You just future pace yourself a little bit and realize that even though you're at hell, you're right at hell at the moment, and it feels like, as one of our tech tribers the other day said, he was in that exact spot. It was 4 a.m. in the morning. He was calling out for help inside the tech tribe. He had a bunch of people helping him out, which was amazing to see. But he said, right now, I would honestly sell my left kidney to get out of this situation. And that's what it's like when you're knee deep in the bottom of it. And he got out the other side because we can't stop time. We do get out the other side. And if you can just future pace and realize that it's painful, this next couple of hours is going to be horrendous, but just whatever you can do to just get a little inkling, like a little glimpse of that future can be so powerful to something to just grab onto and just go, all right, I can just kind of see that I've got to have a break soon. The client's going to do this, whatever's going to happen. We are going to solve it. It's not going to be running on for weeks that we don't solve this thing. And just grab that little lifeline and pull towards it, knowing that you are going to get yourself out of it. Because I'm sure all 4 of us on this call have had those 36, 48-hour sessions, marathon sessions, where cortisol is through the roof. Our body is pumping the entire time. And you can end up coming away from those sessions with low-level, it's like PTSD-type symptoms you come out of them with, because you have pumped your body so full of stress hormones. And you get to things like adrenal fatigue after periods of time when you've been doing it for long. And your body has these crazy reactions to it that then turn out into mental as well. And we've all been there. It sucks. It's horrible. But every time you go through it, if you can figure out what's a little tiny thing that you can add into your mix there to help get yourself through. And Scott, you mentioned very briefly mindfulness. And you hear Richard myself talk about this a lot as well. I have meditated every single day for the last, I think I'm up to maybe 1,600 days in a row now without having a break. And for me, that's a very important part of my mental health maintenance, I will call it, because it gives me that time every day where I can just tune out of everything and I work with my brain to just help control my brain in here. There you go. Pete's got an awesome app. And I actually started with Headspace back in the day. That was one of the first things that got me started. That's on Richard's blog there. And to me, that's one of my keys that helps me. It's kind of my maintenance part of looking after myself. One of the other ones is my exercise, getting out. And one of the things I committed to a few years ago was a minimum of 3 big exercises each week where I sweat. I get out there and I sweat, and I get those endorphins every single week. And sometimes it's more if the surf's up, it's a lot more. But if there's no surf, I still will get out and get those 3 minimum bits of exercise each week. And that's had a major impact on me as well. Richard, I know you've got another couple of tactics that you use as well.
Yeah,
just like the maintenance of once we get to a good spot, it's maintaining it. And
I want to throw a couple, before we do that, I want to throw a couple of circuit breakers out there, and they're both tech-based. So if you've not got a beach that you can go to and jump into the surf, or if you haven't got like an ice hockey rink that you can go to and play at or whatever, and these are all like really important things. But I'm talking about if you're watching this and you were where I still get sometimes, or you were where I was when I was an MSP business owner, and you're like, crap, I'm up to here. I haven't got the capacity to go out and to do something good for myself. I need something right now. Now, most of us, we've talked about, you know, in the MSP industry, reach for drugs or booze or worse. Yeah, I'm talking about something that's a circuit breaker here to make yourself feel better. So 2 things I want to throw out there. The first one was the Headspace app. So, you know, whether you think meditation is woo-woo or not, or anything in between, I can tell you I've interviewed almost 100 of the highest performing people in our industry for my podcast, and virtually without exception, everybody does meditation. So if you think it's woo-woo, then think again, because there is a lot of people making a lot of money and leading their best lives who meditate. So there's got to be something there. And I should say I'm a massive skeptic as well, or I was before I started meditation years ago. And like Nigel, I have meditated every morning and night for years and years and years and years. So that's the first one, the Headspace app. If, however, meditation feels a little bit too woo-woo for you, there's another app I want to mention, and it's called Dare, D-A-R-E. And it's an app out of Ireland, and it's all about breaking free from anxiety. If you are in the situation where you're like, I cannot take any more, I'm going to reach for the booze or the drugs or something worse, because you're just up to there with the stress and the anxiety. When I get to that stage, I put the Dare app on, and there's an Irish fella comes on with the most beautiful voice, and he tells you everything is going to be okay. You have survived this before, and to get through it. And this has been an incredible app. It's totally free. There's a premium version, of course. But if you are feeling at all stressed, go and get the Dare app. Play it. Just sit there. Listen to it for 5 minutes. And it is like a circuit breaker for the craziness that's going on in your head. It really is very, very cool. So 2 apps there, Headspace and the Dare app. Go and check them out. They are really, really good for a lot of the things that we've talked about.
You also touched on briefly there, Richard, alcohol as one of the things. And I used to be heavy into my alcohol. I used to love my alcohol. And not only did I get down the route of stuff a little bit stronger than alcohol, but I had a daily drinking habit in there. And it got to the point in my MSP eventually where I was drinking every night, and I was having a couple of wines. It started off with a couple of glasses of wine. And then as things got more stressful, it turned to nearly a bottle of wine a night. And then the second bottle started coming out some nights. And then because I'm always looking for efficiencies, I went and found scotch, because I was able to drink less but get drunk faster and get the buzz faster. And then eventually one day I put a bottle of scotch on my desk at the office, and I didn't even think anything of it. I had it was just part of what I was doing. Like, I could escape some of the buzz while I'm at work now and dealing with tough tickets. I can have a couple of little sips and I'll have a little bit of a buzz, and that will help me get through the days. And what I found is I got into this funk of waking up every morning with this, like this brain fog from hell. It was just this layer of cloud that was just over my life. And it took me a while to break that alcohol habit every day. It was harder. Like, I used to smoke when I was a teenager because it was the cool thing to do when you're a teenager. And I was able to give up that after a few years, but giving up alcohol was hard for me, like really hard for me. And eventually I got it down to like 1 drink a day, and then I stopped it. And nowadays I might have 3 drinks a year or something like that. But to me, that was one of my other big things that was a trigger for me out there. And I could tell that if I go out and I drink now and I have even 3 or 4 drinks, I can feel the mental health difference for the next week afterwards. I can feel it physically for a couple of days afterwards, and for at least a week afterwards, I can feel that different cloud that's popping up in there. And it's a cumulative effect. For me, at least, I found it cumulative. The more I went out and drank, the more that cloud started hanging over, and that cloud started getting darker and grayer and whatnot. So there's all these, for each of us, it's different. We've all got our different triggers and our different things. And I tried bloody everything to go and escape these realities. Some of it was a heck of a lot of fun on the way as well. I won't deny it, but you just got to figure out what it is. And sometimes it just makes making a tiny little change that on the first day or two or week or 2 or 3, you actually won't see any difference. And that's hard because you're trying to find a difference and you're trying to find a change in something new and happy. And you're making these changes, but you don't see anything. And so my last bit of encouragement on that point is stick at it, because sometimes these changes take a couple of weeks for you to actually notice the differences in there. And when I gave up alcohol, I knew that it wasn't good for me, but I was still doing it. And when I gave it up, I didn't notice the difference immediately, but I gave it up and I persisted with it and I finally got through. Weeks later, I went, hang on, this is kind of night and day now. I'm a different human being after all this. And it just took that extra couple of steps. Sometimes it's like we always want the quick fix to things, and I was looking for the quick fit, like the really quick fixes of things. But sometimes it was the slow fix that I had to just persist at to get to that got me to the better space. Yeah. So a bunch of nodding in there. Anyone got any other things they want to add into this one? I kind of please don't get me wrong when I'm on these things. Like I get excited talking about this stuff, but not in like I'm not excited about the whole thing, because mental health is a very serious issue and a very serious challenge. I get excited sharing the story because I hear so many people get good. What's the word? They kind of feel not alone anymore, like we were talking about. And to me, the more we people like us that have gone through it and have come out the other side can shine a spotlight on it and can say, hey, we're here on the other side. We put up our hand. We're in a good space at the moment. The more it's going to give other people inspiration out there as well. And that's why I also get excited about it, is I just see the results of other people that have been through the pits of hell like we have, and like all of us go through from time to time, and they come out the other side like me and see the world with a different lens.
Yeah,
I would say
probably
I
one thing as well, that this isn't something, we're not sat at the top of the mountain here and saying,
oh no,
hey, here's the route up or whatever, because I still go through this. You know, clinical depression is the thing. It's not like, oh, this isn't a low mood that I'm just going to sort of shift. There's all these techniques, all these different things that I can do to sort of keep this at bay. But it is there. You know, it's like having asthma or anything else. It's just there. And so for anybody watching this isn't something that you're going to cure, I wouldn't say. This is something that you have to be mindful of all the way through. And if you see those red flags coming up, so for you, it might be alcohol, or it might be, high stress levels. For me, for instance, it is my sleep gets really poor, and I turn to really poor food and stuff like that. That's a really obvious red flag for me. I also find that I get critical of others, or I get angry and stuff like that. And I'm really lucky. I've got a wife who is like the canary in the coal mine. She will tap me on the shoulder and go, Richard, there's a red flag here, and sort of easing off at that point. But this isn't something that goes away. So for anybody watching this that's feeling like this is a problem to be solved, it isn't a problem, and it isn't to be solved. It's just something you need to adjust your life to in a healthy way on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. Pete, you were going to say something then as well.
Oh, yes. I was going to say, yeah, if there's one thing to do, I would say make use of the anonymous section in the Tech Tribe forum. If you want to post, you don't want to kind of give your name out or anything, post anonymously in the forum. Everyone can see the post, but no one knows who you are or anything along those lines. And then everyone else can kind of come in with some help or advice or guidance. Yeah.
And we've seen that play out a number of times in the tribe, where people have come in either anonymously, or they've just opened up their kimono and said, look, I'm in a crappy spot at the moment. And they've been brave enough to go and say it, which is tough. Like, I give them full credit to go and do it, because it's tough to open up in a community like that. And they do it. And what I love is the outpouring of support from everybody in our industry to go and help them. We had a scenario just 2 weeks ago where it happened again. And we had Tech Tribers getting in contact with me saying, I've got in contact with them, I've spoken to them, I've helped them a little bit. And I love it. Like, there is support out there for people, and please don't be afraid to go and ask for it. We've set up so many ways to help as much as we can. There's so many support options out there. And as we mentioned before, it ain't taboo anymore. It used to be in the past that people would look at someone that's gone to see a psychologist and going, oh, that person's broken. Like, that ain't on anymore. And it's not about that anymore. The tabooness is gone. We all have our challenges. Going and seeing a psychologist or a therapist or anything like that, any sort of ist, is often very helpful, and it's a good thing to do, and they're there for you and to help you. So don't ever feel like you're broken. None of us are broken. We're all going through these challenges, often for a reason, because it helps us come out the other side a better human. Scott, I think I heard you were about to say something quickly as well before. We're going to wrap up in a few minutes, because Richard's got to
just real quick. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone on the comments for getting involved. Sam got an amazing way of starting the day, where she just has a break and watches some Judge Judy before the kids get up. I was like, that's epic, because who doesn't like
Brilliant.
Judge Judy? Phil Forster has been really candid in opening up in some of the comments as well. And Phil, I can see you're saying you've got a way out from MSP life into another life, and that's awesome, man. That's really cool. If you've said, hey, do you know what? This is it for me, and I've reached my limit. It's time to do something different. Amazing. That is absolutely the right choice for you. So you go for that. And I think that's awesome. And thank you so much for sharing that. But no, I just want to put it out there. If I don't have all the answers, I don't think any of us on this do. I also, just if it helps anyone at all, I have a bit of imposter syndrome when I sit on this call with that legend down there, that one over that way, and this one here as well. I'm like, you invited me to be part of this community. That is amazing. So I also understand that we get imposter syndrome from time to time, and that's one of those other
100%.
things that kind of jump on us. But no, 100%. Thanks to everyone for just being so candid and jumping in. And if there's anything I could do, reach out to me, catch me on LinkedIn or whatever. I don't have all the answers, but I'm always happy to chat. Or find me in the Tech Tribe.
Right in the Tech Tribe. We're always ears, and that's often what's just needed. It's just an ear, right? It's just we're born with two of these and only one of these for a reason, as they say. And we should be listening to people twice as much as we're talking out there. And anyway, with that said, what's the rest of our format for this thing? We've got to start wrapping up. It's 5 minutes past. We're aiming to have these episodes around an hour each week. So that everybody knows the time frame. Sometimes when you jump on tribal gatherings with Richard and myself, or Scott and myself, they tend to go, Scott and Richard, they might go for a couple of hours because we love them. We're going to keep this show. Sorry?
2.5 hours, our last one, wasn't it? So,
we had Ernest Murray on this morning for an hour and a half, and we just got through all the questions, so we went for a long time. But these things, we're going to keep it an hour. Again, I reiterate what Scott said. Thank you, everybody in the comments. For some reason, I actually can't see the comments from here, so I'm going to try and see how I can find them later on. But we're going to keep this thing going, to keep the conversation going. Next week, we're going to pick another topic of the week, all about the MSP world, and something that's near and dear to a lot of MSPs' hearts and whatnot. But as always, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Richard. You are all gentlemen and scholars. I love having a conversation with you. I'm sure this show is going to be a heck of a lot of fun over the next while as we experiment and see whether it's worth it. But I think we're getting a lot of good feedback already. We've only just started promoting it. This was episode 0, so we're still not officially launched just yet. We might, maybe next week it'll be episode 0.5 or something, just so that I don't know if we're ready to get to episode 1 just yet, Scott, but I don't know. Has anybody got any parting things before we click the end button in here? There you go. Pete does. He's got a reminder because
Pete is on the ball here continuously. I've got to say, Pete is keeping us in line. Pete knows what's going on, the technology. I think, Nigel, if it wasn't for Pete and Scott, you and I would be talking to absolutely nobody at the moment, wouldn't we? Because we wouldn't even know. Because I would have forgotten to press the go live button. I would have got it right. No, this was really good. This was really good, and I think it's an important topic that we talked about as well. So,
yeah, we kicked this thing off, episode 0, with one of the hottest, one of the most important topics, I think, in the MSP world and in the world at large. And so, I think it's a topic we're going to revisit often on this show as well. That's one that we can go layers deep and sideways in and whatnot. But if you have enjoyed this show and you've jumped on here, wherever the heck the button is, it's either there. Go and click it that says subscribe. The Tech Tribe YouTube channel is where we're going to be pushing this from primarily. Pete's telling us exactly where it is that way.
Watch Pete for these things.
Yeah, watch him. But if you go to thetechtribe.com/YouTube, it will take you straight to the Tech Tribe channel on there, and click the subscribe button. I think there's a bell you're supposed to click on as well. We'll be doing it at 7 p.m. Sydney time, which is 9 a.m. London time every Thursday, which is 4 a.m. I think New York time. So apologies for you folk over in the US. And 1 a.m. might be 1 a.m. Maybe it's 1 a.m. LA time or something like that, or vice versa. But the replays, I did notice last week's one got watched a lot by people. So hopefully we'll get a few of you folk over in the US watching these things on replay. Looking forward to seeing you all on the next one. Thank you, gentlemen. Have an amazing week. And I will see you all next week, where we hopefully get to version 0.5, episode 0.5. One. They're all going to fight me over version 1, but I'm still scared about getting to version 1, because then we've got to be official. And when we're official, I've got to do a good job of hosting this thing.
You're already doing a good job. Great to see you all.
Anyway,
Done well.
thank you guys.
See you later, guys.
Bye for now.